I'm probably not the right person in our business to talk about customer relationships, but let me tell you a little bit about our business to start with so you'll get a frame of reference. We are in the pipeline industry. We're a service provider in the pipeline industry. Kind of a specialty provider. It's corrosion protection, and you know, it's something that touches all of you every single day and you don't even realize it. You got corrosion challenges in your house, in your car, but the area that we focus on are the pipelines that provide you natural gas or transport oil or anything in a metal pipe. And we provide corrosion control products and services. Not really a very sexy business, pretty old technology, pretty small industry. There's lots of pipelines, underground pipelines out there in the United States, but there's not that many customers or companies that own the pipelines. They're again, a pretty small industry. Sometimes there's the names change and companies get acquired and sold and that type of thing. But the pipelines that we provide services to are, for the most part, the same pipelines we've been providing services to ever since we've been in business. So, customers, and what does that mean to us? And one of the things I've kind of learned over the years is that I can stand up here and talk about building customer relationships, and some of the things I say, or many of the things I talk about, are the same challenges that you face in your own business. It really doesn't matter what kind of business it is, what kind of organization you serve. We all have customers. Everybody agree with that? You have a customer? Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of what is that definition of customer? What does that mean to you? What is that word or that concept of customers? Now, traditionally, you would think that a customer is somebody that buys or purchases whatever you have to sell. Presumably, it has value, or they wouldn't be buying it. But it's a transactional relationship, and that may be true in some organizations or some industries, but it's absolutely not true with us. We can't afford to have just a purely transactional perspective of customers. So for us, we define that, I don't know, it's a bigger concept of customer. And so maybe a definition, a person or entity that benefits from goods or somebody else's goods or services, that benefits. So it's not just buying and selling. There's a value that's transferred. And when you think about it from that perspective, it really kind of widens up that word of customer. It's not just somebody on the receiving end. There's an exchange, and maybe it's not a good or service, or maybe it's not just money. So with that kind of as the backdrop, let me talk to you about how we look at customers at Mesa. So first of all, you got your external customers. And we use that word a lot, the external customer, because aren't they the ones that are actually providing the money? I mean, they're the ones that are writing checks, the external customers. And these are the traditional customers. And we depend on those, and we value those relationships, and we try to build and enhance those relationships. For us, in our business, we kind of segment those customers. And I would expect that you probably do in your business as well, those external customers. So for us, it's the asset owner, which would be the pipeline owner, the Magellan, or the Devon, or the Chesapeake, or the ConocoPhillips. You've all heard those companies are all big companies in Oklahoma. Well, those are our external customers. They own the assets that we work for. But sometimes, even though we're working on those assets, there may be somebody else in place. And a big group of our direct customers are contractors. So I'll talk about how our business is segmented a little bit, but from a customer segmentation standpoint, there's a lot of contractors across the United States that do similar things to what we do. We sell them materials. And then finally, for us, the third segment is resellers. And these are people that buy and sell our products or services. They don't particularly add value. They're simply the middleman. We intentionally identify who those customers are. And for us, these are in the value in which they offer to Mesa. We would rather work directly for the asset owner. If we can't work for the asset owner, then our next choice is the contractor who's working with the asset owner. And finally, the reseller to us is the lowest tier of external customer in terms of our preference and where we think we can have the biggest impact. So building customer relationships has a lot to do with knowing who you're trying to develop the relationship with. And that gets into segmentation and identification, and we'll talk about that as we go through these slides. So whether it's an external customer or an internal customer or a societal customer, identification is pretty important, segmentation. So not just on the external side, not just the people we sell to, but how about the people that sell to us? I don't know that you would normally put them in the customer category, but yet from our perspective, if we go back to that definition, that somebody who benefits from somebody else's services, I think we would put them in the same category. We value the supplier relationships as much as we do our customer relationships. We're in a small business, a small industry. There's not that many players. And I can give you example after example how building the supplier relationship has just as much value to us as building the traditional external customer relationship. And that's why it's important for us to broaden that customer definition to let us fit in suppliers and partners. One of the things we learned a long time ago is that if we can become the preferred supplier of our customers, it's going to be much easier for us to do that if we're the preferred customer of our suppliers. All right, so that's external. Let's move to internal, because we use the words customer service a lot at Mesa. Everybody's got a customer. We've got people in our accounting groups. We've got people in our support services groups, our IT groups. That word service, customer service, goes all across the organization. And when we first started off talking about customer service, I don't know that any of us kind of put that together. Maybe intuitively you understand that, but we weren't saying that. We weren't talking that. And now we talk about that just as much. We set internal standards for customer service just like we set external standards. And so whether regardless of what group you're in within Mesa, whether it's a group that directly connects with our external customers or our external partners, suppliers, or you're in a point where you're just dealing with Mesa people, there's still the expectation that you're going to have just the same level of attention and effort toward customer service as you would if you were dealing directly with an external customer. And I think finally for us, the last group, the societal thing, I don't know if you would traditionally put that in a customer thing, but we do. It's important for us to participate and support our local communities, and we're very active in that. We've got our main office is in Tulsa, but we've got 8 other offices spread across the United States, and each of those offices are in a specific community. We want that same feeling about customer service and building those relationships to exist there. Okay, that's the background. My next slide isn't one that you're going to be able to read, but I'm putting it out here to demonstrate that you can't just stop at the talk. Because frankly, you could probably go into just about any organization that's been around, and you're going to hear the same words being bandied around in conversation. I heard some of them in the session at lunch. I've heard those words for years and years and years, but not just at a quality conference, any conference you go to. Any website you go to, companies use the words quality, service, excellence. I mean, those words are so common. You can't. It's not just talk. You got to do more with it than just talk. So this slide is simply illustrating that we have intentional plans to deliver value to our customers and to develop customer relationships. It's not an accident. We're not just hoping that it happens. We're planning that it will happen. I got to admit that 15 years ago, we were just kind of hoping. Maybe even just praying. Because we were pretty focused on customer service, but we weren't aligned at all. And customer service meant something entirely different to one individual or to one group than it did to another. Our journey, as people like to call it, has been about us aligning those things, defining those things, and becoming much more consistent in the delivery. So again, it's not an accident. Here's one of my favorite analogies about this. So Southwest Airlines was in here earlier, and they talked about their history and their culture and everything. How did that happen? I mean, how do you think they built that culture? Do you think it just happened? Did it, by accident? Or did they plan for it to happen? If you had to guess, what would you guess? They planned for it. So think about Quick Trip. Quick Trip's a great example. Do you think Quick Trip intends to deliver great customer service? You think they set out to do that? Do you think Get and Go intentionally tried to deliver great service? Did anybody remember who Get and Go was? I think they were hoping that it was going to happen. They didn't plan for it, they were just praying. So you got to plan for it. It doesn't just happen. It certainly didn't just happen for us. We planned for it. So this is our strategic plan. Now, we're not rocket scientists. There's nothing on this plan that is proprietary or really brilliant or anything else. It's actually pretty simple. But it's intentional. And we work hard at it. We identified 5 things a long time ago that we have to be very intentional about. First of all, it's got to be great service, great quality, great performance, great place to work, great relationships. We added a 6th one last year because we have to be great at safety too. But the other 5 have been with us for a long, long time, and we get slowly better. I mean, we screw up every year. We have breakdowns. We're just like every other organization. But we keep plugging away and trying to get better. That's really pretty basic formula. In our strategic plan, I've circled great relationships, and that's our statement about our external customers and our external suppliers, and we want to have great relationships. We want them to be more than transactional. And we got a set of measures associated with that. We got a set of initiatives that are associated with moving that forward. And we're going to be very intentional about executing that. The thing about a plan is it's not one thing independent from everything else. It's a system, it's a process. It's an organism, it's something that just evolves and grows over time, and the relationships piece is just a part of that. You got to have the rest of it too. You can't build a great customer relationship if you got a crappy product to sell. It all works together. You can't really deliver great service and have a great relationship if it's a crappy place to work. That doesn't work either. So it's building on everything you've got. I'm only talking really about customer relationships, but I could just as easily talk about the whole thing. So you got to plan for it. It's not an accident. If you want to deliver great service and build a great customer relationship, you're going to have to intentionally do something to create that. Unless you're incredibly lucky and it just happens. So when we talk about planning with the customer in mind for us, I've got 3 of our 6 things that we have to be really good at listed here. Again, not to the exclusion of some of the others, but first of all, the great service. What is that? What's the definition of great service? Again, it's not an accident. You got to do it on purpose. And we all know that great service, if you got, think about in your head a restaurant that you go to that delivers great service. What's the result of that? You go back? If you have a great experience, are you likely to go back, There's a lot of restaurants out there. You have a lot of choices. So if you've got a restaurant, if you're running a restaurant, what do you think the risk is of a customer having a bad experience? They're going to go choose somewhere else. They're not coming back. In our business, it's a relatively small industry. There's a relatively small number of players, and we know who they are. Our goal is to be the leading provider in quality and in service. Again, going back to the words thing, I think you can find those same words on our competitors' websites or in their marketing information. But the thing is, in our business, that word of mouth goes around pretty quickly. And so for us, we don't really have a choice. If we're going to survive, you've got to be either at the top or moving toward the top, moving in that direction. So the service part, that's huge. I think just as huge for us as the great place to work. Those two things go hand in hand. And so when we're planning to deliver great customer service and build a great relationship with our clients, we have to spend pretty much the same effort to building a great place to work. Developing your employees, hiring the right employee. I used to, when I first started the business, I'm an engineer, so I'm not a people person. I got to tell you that. I'm an engineer, very analytical, and so some of this soft, fuzzy stuff, I'm out of my box when I talk about this stuff. In fact, we have a tool in our office that we use sometimes in the hiring process. It's a profiling tool so that you can, at key hires, you can personality profile and see if there's a personality match to the job match type thing. And one of the attributes it measures is social ability, the interaction with other people. And On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most social, I was the very first one in history in our company to receive a 1 on that. So the talking about customer service and providing and delivering great value, to me used to be, hey, watch what I do, and it'll rub off on you. Just watch. And I've always been very customer focused and delivering value, but I've never been one of those to talk about it that much. And it took me a long time to realize you got to talk about it. It's not just going to migrate from one head to another head. You got to talk about it. You got to put it on paper. You got to communicate, and then communicate, and then communicate. And again, this great place to work thing and great service, they're hand in hand with each other. This is where I think it's so simple and so intuitive. And I don't understand why more companies don't get it. You can't have a crappy place to work and deliver great service. You just can't. Do you know of any organization that's ever been able to do that before? Now, I could probably say a couple of places that I think are crappy places to work and ask you if they deliver great service, but I don't want to call anybody out on the thing. It's much easier to call out the ones that are deliver great service. Do you think Quick Trip's a great place to work? Do you think Southwest Airlines is a great place to work? Do you think the Oklahoma Thunder is a great place to work? Would that be a neat place to work? Those guys deliver great service, and they build great customer relationships and develop huge customer loyalty. And they go hand in hand with each other, and we recognize that. I don't know that we're the best at that, but we recognize it and we work at it. And finally, the great relationships thing. So it's not, and for our people, we don't want them to stop at just delivering great service. That's important, and you got to have that. But we want it to go further. We got to get that connection. And for us, it's going to be a personal connection. It's going to be a friendship connection. It's going to be how you doing, how are your kids, what'd you do last weekend type thing. A personal connection, and over time, strengthen those relationships. Because one of the things that I learned from my sales manager, who's been with me for decades, is you need to be friends with your customers. Because when you screw up, and you will, your friends will give you another chance. If you don't have a friendship, you don't have a connection with them, one screw up loses you, the customer. Develop that relationship, make that personal connection. When I first started off this presentation, I knew there was no way I was going to make 50 minutes. So I was worried about what I was going to talk about. I think I'm already behind, so I apologize for that. But here's why we talk about it. Here's just some of the reasons why we talk about this. Connecting the employee versus the customer, the respect, the golden rule thing, it applies both ways. The attitude. And Southwest Airlines is the best at this. Quick Trip's really good at this. Their hiring process tries to weed out the people that don't have the attitude they think fits into their culture. That's really important. Positive attitude, you can do a lot of things with. You can develop somebody with a positive attitude. You bring somebody in with a negative attitude, you're already up against the wall. It's hard to do that with. Leadership. I'm not a people person. I'm typically not a verbal person. But I think from a leadership standpoint, one of the things that occurs is that I can say, as many words as I want to say, and if they're perceived as false or lies, it doesn't really matter. That leadership modeling, role model behavior, doing what you say. So I could destroy any credibility I have by standing up in front of a group of my employees and telling them, you know, it's important that you don't lie, cheat, steal the customer. It's important that you do this. It's important that you do. But if I turn around and go visibly show them that that's not important to me, it's not going to be important to them. And we talk about the Mesa experience around our office. I'm not sure that we know exactly what that means, except that we think it's the cumulative effect of all the interactions we have. And we're very proud of the Mesa experience, even though we don't know exactly what it means or how to define it. We think it's a game changer for us. It's our advantage over our competitor. That's why we talk about this stuff. Now, building the relationships, it's important to understand that building the relationships is just one part of the customer-focused process, or the approach to building your customers. And it's important. It's a huge piece of it. But here's how we kind of look at customer focus in general. First, we're going to identify who we're going to try to market our products and services to. You know, who's the, not just the group, but also maybe the specific customer. We need to find out what they want, because they're not all the same. Sometimes these groups have different needs, different requirements. Delivering the product or the service, this is what you have that's important to them, that they're willing to pay you money for. And then you can start on the relationships and building that relationships through a series of interactions, through customer contact, customer complaints, measuring customer satisfaction. So it's all a circular loop. You saw the Plan, Do, Check, Act at lunch or some of the other presentations. The reality is, you know, this is a never-ending process, just like every other process that you have that's important to your organization. And building the relationships is a piece of that for us. We have two essentially different business operations. We have a products operation, which is either manufacturing or supply of products, and we have a services operation where we actually go install or provide technical services to. So we've segmented our business into those two basic groups, our products customers and our service customers. And when we look at who our customers are, we wind up having a different ranking for each of those groups. In our products group, our ranking is primarily by business volume, and the higher the business volume, then the higher level of importance. So we have kind of established some minimum service levels for the different rankings of customers. And at those different rankings, then there's going to be a slightly different service level. For example, customer contact frequency. If you're in our materials operation, our products operation, and you have what we call an A+ customer, then we're going to be making an outward customer contact with you at least once a week. We're going to call you up. We're going to send you an email. We're going to make that contact. If you're an A customer, it's going to be once every 2 weeks. If you're a B customer, once a month, we're going to be reaching out to you in some fashion. Now, I'm kind of spouting off things. Those probably aren't exactly the right things that we're doing, but there's a level of service, not just for customer contact, but for delivery, for quoting an order. We're going to respond to our A+ customers in less than an hour. With our A customers, 4 hours. So we tailor our response to what we consider the value of the customer. On the service side of our business, we've got a much smaller group of customers, And we've got a different set of service responses for those types of customers. So the message is, know who your customer is and how you're going to segment them in terms of your offerings to them. And then you can kind of determine what their requirements are. So we all know you can't be all things to all people. We don't try to be. We try to be very intentional about what we do. But one of the things we've learned is that you have to find out what they want. So what do customers want? Do you think a reseller for us, which is the third level of value for us, has a different set of requirements than an end user, a Devin, might have? Or a contractor? And so in our customer survey process, we ask questions. Now, to make it easier for us, we narrowed down the list of answers, so we gave them a choice of what they could respond. And it really came down to 4 things that we believe we need to know from the customer, which is important. We want them ranked, so service, quality, price, and safety. Those are the 4 attributes that we're routinely asking our customer what is important to them. So on the product side of our business, it's pretty easy. Contractors that we sell materials to, in order, service, quality, and price. That's their prioritization of what their needs are. Our end users are quality, price, and service, and our resellers, price is the #1 thing they want, and then quality and service. So it's kind of subtle, but it matters to us because it helps us identify who we value. Our model is service and quality, and price is kind of the last one. We've got to be competitive. We know we're not the low price. So consequently, when we're looking at this list, you know, the 2 groups that we really want to sell to are end users and contractors. You can kind of do the same thing on the services side. You'll notice that on the services side, safety is #1 in all the groups, which is the reason why these 5 things that we developed, relationship, service, performance, great place to work, and opportunistic growth, we had to add one, and that was safety, because our customers told us it was that important. Now, how do you go about developing a relationship? Everybody's going to have their own method, recipe for doing this. It starts for us with account management. So we're going to have assigned people, assigned contact frequencies, and we're going to be now, you know, kind of remembering we're not service side of our business, we've got a product side of our business, so there's going to be some variation with those 2 groups. But essentially, we're going to try to define a customer owner within our organization that's going to be the primary contact, and then try to deliver on the decided or the agreed upon contact frequency. One of the ways that we try to develop relationships is a focus on delivering solutions, not just delivering a product or a service. And you want to be, in our business, you want to become the expert that your customers call to say, hey, what do you think? What would help me do this? You don't want somebody calling up and saying, I need to order a rectifier. The one that asks you, what do you think I need to do? That's a much more valuable relationship to us long term. So we want to provide solutions. We want to build these relationships, whether they're on the external customer side or the supplier side. We're gonna connect in and make that personal touch. And we don't just do it with one person. I mean, this is an organizational thing that we're trying to do. Value promise. We screw up. We screw up a lot. Just like I imagine all of our companies do. But the thing that sets us apart from our competition is that our customers know that we're going to make it right. We got a value promise to them. And over time, delivering on that value promise, we almost look at screw-ups as an opportunity to deepen the relationship you have with the client. They're not going to be happy that you screwed up. But if you take that and turn that into a recovery that they're totally satisfied with, wow, that means something. And they remember that. Developing the relationship, again, the personal touch. And we do the trade shows, conferences. We hold customer appreciation events. We do training. Training for us is a pretty big opportunity. We bring customers into our facility. We provide technical training for them. We take a group of their technicians and spend a day with them teaching them something that they have a need to know. Sometimes we try to recover costs, but for the most part, that's just part of the value that we offer in having a relationship with them. And I would expect that there's a number of ways each of your organizations can do similar types of things. Now, measurement. We always struggle with metrics and aligning them. And we measure a lot of things. One of the things that has meant the most to us over time is our external customer satisfaction survey. And we've been doing it for a long time. We've used different processes. From time to time, we've got a process that maybe gets a little too tired, and we have to switch and come up with another type of process. But not doing some type of customer satisfaction measurement would be, in our organization, we'd have a revolution in our business development group, in our delivery group, because we depend on that kind of feedback. And we've been doing this since 1999 in one form or another. Our current process is actually getting tired, and we're now looking to improve that and enhance that, and it may wind up that we just find another process, or it may wind up that we make an improvement on it. But however you do that, you've got to get that feedback in some way. You can't depend on somebody receiving a phone call and that being going through the organization. It just won't happen. You've got to have a formal process to do that. And we've got several, depending on whether we're on the service side of our business or the product side of our business. So, again, in a small industry, limited number of customers out there, repeat business becomes, our key success. I mean, we've got to have that. And right now, more than 90% of our revenue year over year comes from an existing relationship. Now that might either indicate that we do a really bad job of new business development, or we do a really good job of retaining the customers. So you can look at it either way. The reality is our revenue has grown consistently year over year. And so our existing relationships are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Another thing, and maybe you have a similar, is that in a small industry, everybody knows everybody. And sometimes next year, your customer is your competitor because there's movement in the industry. One of these things about relationships, whether you're talking about supplier, external customer, or maybe even competitor, is that I tell young people coming in the industry, don't burn bridges, because you never know who you're going to be talking to and in what situation. One of our biggest positives that we have is that I've got lots of people that have left our company because we got a great place to work. They left our company and moved to a customer's company. In fact, where 20 years ago, the training source for us as a contractor was going to an operating company and hiring an experienced person to come in, it's exactly the reverse now. We are now the training ground for these big operating companies. And so I've got ex-employees scattered all through the industries that are now my customers. And it's turned into a huge advantage for us. I'm going to throw a couple of slides up just showing you results. This is coming to the end of my presentation. But again, we depend on this. Here's our customer satisfaction results over the last 6 years. And you see us in red. We've got a tool that measures our competitors. And also we've got a benchmark to the ACSI, which is American Customer Satisfaction Index. And so this is our performance. It's not an accident. It's planned. We work hard at executing it, and these are the results. Now, I'm pretty happy with this, but it's interesting. We had a senior leadership meeting last week doing our annual strategic planning, and the one thing that came out of that is a firm commitment on our senior leadership team that we're not doing a very good job in providing this, quote, Mesa experience to our customers, and we need to do something about it. Now, these are the results, yet that's the commitment that we came out of with that leadership meeting. And I think that's what you've got to have in order to make that constant improvement. Here's a graph of our revenue derived from existing customer relationships. You'll see our materials group is up at that plus 90%. Our services group, we're seeing some pretty dramatic zigzag patterns, although we're still plus 75%. The reason that is, and we've done lots of analysis, that's where our current growth is. You know, our materials group is a pretty stable, slow increasing part of our business, but our services group is really growing pretty dramatically. So we're adding new customers every single year. Okay, I think I made it on time, Heather.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, cool. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or anything else?
How do you vet your people who apply for a job with you to make sure they get your post?
How do we vet our recruits and applicants to make sure they fit us? We've gone to a behavior-based interview process. At some level, depending on the job position level, we'll also enhance that with the personality profile tool. I don't think those tools are the one and only answer, so a lot of it's going to depend on the responses. And believe me, people sneak through the filters. They can get through. There's some pretty skilled liars and people that can change their, present it. But we significantly improve our ability to kind of screen those out. And then the next step is we try to, when we make a mistake, we try to catch that early and correct it early rather than let it just kind of play out.
What current methods are you using to get customer feedback?
We're using, what current methods are we using to get customer feedback? We're using a quarterly interview. We've hired a third party to go out and we're giving them a list of customers. They do about a 10 to 15 minute interview with key customers, and that's our primary one. We've also added a post-project satisfaction survey for the services side of our business, and then we've also got a customer complaint process that provides us feedback as well. So we got right now, essentially three mechanisms for getting customer feedback, in addition to just the day-to-day contact with the customers.
I have a question about your service level model. What happens if you have your heavy resources towards your A customers, but your A customers only make up 10% of your business, and maybe your C customers make up 60% of your business, and they're not getting as much attention?
That's a great question.
And then maybe your C customers say, you know what, we're not going to become A customers because your service isn't that great.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is how that ranking that we have on the product side of our business, how we make sure that we're not excluding a potential. So back to your first statement, our A and A plus is 80% of our business. All right, so there's a significant drop once you get down below the A level. But in addition to that ranking, there's a sub-ranking of trying to identify customers that are at the C or D level that have the potential to move up. And we would carve those out and treat them slightly differently than we would the other C customers. Now that's, you know, you're gonna mess that up from time to time, but we try to identify customers within that ranking that we could potentially move up. Are we out of time?
No, you've got 5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes. Other questions?
How many employees do you have?
We have roughly about 200 employees right now. And that's significantly grown over the last 5 years. 5 years ago, we were less than 100 employees. So we've added quite a bit over the last 5 years. And one of our biggest challenges is they happen to be scattered all across the United States. So connecting to them is an ongoing challenge for us, and we've got a communication program, an outreach program that's pretty active in regards to connecting with our field employees.
What would you say is, and I know it's hard to mention one, but if I said you just could have one, what is the one best benefit your company received from going through this process involved?
Okay, the question is, what's the one best benefit our companies receive from going through Baldrige criteria? And the reason I repeated the question is I'm trying to come up with a good answer for it. Well, yeah, we're in business. We survived. We made it. You know, you measure that in a lot of different ways. The benefit for us is the validation that the path we chose years and years ago is the right path. So you make a decision that continuous improvement has to be there. You make a decision that you're going to take care of your employees. You make a decision that you have to be focused on your customers. And all of those things for us fit into the Baldrige criteria so neatly. We said, wow, this is it. This criteria thing, this has everything we believe in. And then you start off down the path of improvement, making applications. Well, that's a difficult journey. I started to say something else. That journey was hard. So sitting where I'm at right now, it's validation that we made the right decision. And then we stuck with that decision. You know, we know, Secretary Kramer was in here, I was listening in the room, you know, the three things. You know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. Well, we're in that don't know what we don't know thing. We know that. We know we don't know. I mean, I guess we're in the second one. But then that intuitively means you don't know what you don't know. So we have so much opportunity. And I didn't know that 10 years ago. I didn't know that 5 years. But the farther we go, the more opportunity we see out there. So, I don't know. I kind of ranted on it. I apologize.
Your company has been on this quality journey for many years now. How have you grown personally through that process?
Wow. How have I grown through that process? Well, I don't know, man. Well, first of all, I'm a lot smarter than I was then. I mean, of course. You know, I personally, I started off this journey not knowing. So I'm listening to other people talk about Demings and Juran and the Schuhart. Well, I had to learn that. I mean, that was one of the earliest learnings for me, is to figure out what performance improvement was, what quality was. Knowing that it's the right path, you got to learn what that means and how to deliver. The execution piece of this is the hardest part of it. And so, you know, I've had to learn how to take a concept, communicate the concept, and then execute that, and then do that over and over and over again. And so, I don't know. Maybe I've learned, maybe I haven't, but we're doing okay. I'm getting the signal here. Maybe one more.
How do you learn from your potential customers, from your
Every day. How do we do that? You know, our competitors make it easy for us. We don't have any competitors in the room, do we? They make it so easy for us. It's just like we get most of our customers from them, and we're not doing anything brilliant, but we're doing it pretty good. And if that's all it takes, wow, we're in the right industry, aren't we? You have opportunities to learn every single day. Transitioning from identifying that and doing on an individual basis to an organizational level, that's the challenge. Taking an opportunity and identifying that opportunity, getting it across the organization, prioritizing it to where it's not just one person's idea, it becomes an organizational thing, that's the hard thing. And that's just basic blocking and tackling and doing it over and over and over again. There's nothing hard, there's nothing complex about that. It's just really hard. All right, I think I got to wrap it up. Thank you very much.